10 years ago, a sophomore in college faced a big decision. He could be risk-averse and remain at school where he was a successful student, or he could follow a much riskier path to leave college and focus on a new business adventure. "The biggest risk is not taking any risk," the young man said. "In a world that is changing really quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks." 1 decade and $45 billion later, it appears that the rewards far outweighed the risks when Mark Zuckerberg chose to follow his dream with Facebook. Project managers also must assess and manage risk every day. One of the most important ways to manage project risk is to evaluate, select, and monitor the appropriate contracting mechanism to assist in achieving project objectives. Contracting with suppliers is one proven method for transferring various degrees of risk from the project to another entity. Most contracts are either fixed price or cost reimbursement contracts. Risk shared between the project and the contractor is generally determined by the contract type. Although fixed-price contracts are often preferred and encouraged by many organizations to minimize risk exposure, there are times when cost reimbursement contracts are in the best interests of the project. For all contracts, specific contract terms and conditions must be included in the statement of work to determine the exact degree of risk being assumed by the project and contractor. The hallmark of fixed-price contracts is setting a fixed total price for a defined product or service. Fixed-price contractors are legally obligated to complete such contracts and may face financial damages if they do not. In a fixed-price contract, the statement of work must precisely specify the product or services being procured. Changes in scope can be accommodated, but usually with a corresponding increase in contract price. A fixed-price contract provides for a price that is not subject to adjustment on the basis of the contractor's cost experience in performing the contract. This contract type places maximum risk and full responsibility for all costs and resulting profit or loss upon the contractor. A fixed-price contract also provides maximum incentive for the contractor to control costs and perform effectively, and imposes minimal administrative requirements on the contractor and the project. But what do you do when specifications are less defined and may change during the project, and the risks are largely unknown? This is when project managers often turn to cost reimbursement contracts. In cost reimbursement contracts, the risk burden shifts back to the project. Under cost reimbursement contracts, all legitimate contract costs incurred by the contractor, plus a negotiated fee for contractor profit, are paid by the project. Cost reimbursement contracts pay for work performed by the contractor, as set forth in the contract's statement of work. These contracts also set a ceiling that the contractor may not exceed. There are times when project teams benefit greatly from cost reimbursement contracts too. Some projects undertake tasks far different from the norm and assume much greater risk than what was undertaken in previous work. The lunar module for the Apollo program that Northrop Grumman developed for NASA is an example of a successful cost reimbursement. The project had tremendous uncertainty due to the high risks surrounding the first lunar landing, but it successfully delivered a man to the surface of the moon in 1969. Perhaps the most important provision for a fixed-price contract is a statement of work that conveys precisely what needs to be done and with sufficient details and specifications for potential contractors. Before entering into a cost reimbursement contract, project managers must validate that the contractor's accounting system is capable of allocating costs to this contract and using efficient methods and effective cost controls. A total estimated cost agreement, which represents the best estimate of the project team and the contractor, also must be negotiated. When specifications are specific and stable, and the risk is well understood, fixed-price contracts are the preferred contracting vehicle for projects. For projects where specifications are imprecise and subject to change, and risk is either high or not well understood, cost reimbursement contracts make more sense. Project managers do not select the best contract vehicle by themselves. This decision is made in concert with other stakeholders, especially the contracting officer. Working together, they develop a procurement management plan that determines the most appropriate contract vehicle for this particular project. Managing risk versus opportunity is a question that confronts every project manager. Recognizing and assessing risk and uncertainty is the basis for making the correct decision between fixed price and cost reimbursement contracts. Fixed price contracts often provide a means to shift risk to contractors and make sense when specifications and risk are well understood. When things are more uncertain and the risk is higher, cost reimbursement contracts make more sense. Risk-taking sometimes makes sense. Just ask Mark Zuckerberg. Project managers can reduce risk, improve performance, save money, and achieve a greater return on investment by choosing the appropriate contract vehicles. The risk shouldered by the purchaser or the contractor is generally determined by the contract type. Most contracts are either fixed price or cost reimbursement. For all contracts, specific contract terms and conditions must be included in the statement of work to determine the exact degree of risk being assumed by the purchaser and seller. Fixed price contracts set a fixed total price for a defined product or service to be provided. In fixed price contracts, the statement of work must precisely specify the product or services being procured. Changes in scope can be accommodated, but usually with a corresponding increase in contract price. In cost reimbursement contracts, risk shifts back to the project, and all legitimate contract costs incurred by the contractor, plus a negotiated fee for contractor profit, are paid by the project.